Welcome to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you by the Hard Truth Distilling Company in Brown County, Indiana.
So for the thousands in attendance and the millions watching around the world. Time! Three on the way. Oh! It went in! It went in! And Indiana wins the ball game! Know your role and shut your mouth, you jabroni! Float game for the win! Ayler's gone! Goodbye, touchdown, Indy! Woo! IU! America! They got a football team now!
It's pretty simple. I win. Google me.
You know that I'm the cream of the crop. Oh.
Now, from the Hard Truth Studios, here's Jim Coyle.
Welcome aboard to another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio on this Monday. Glad to have you along as always, and as well our good friend Greg Rakestraw from the ISB Sports Network. How are you, sir?
I'm good, buddy. How are you?
Fine. Plenty going on. So busy. Of course, lots of college ball over the weekend as we get closer and closer to those tournaments. But we are in tournament week for high school, as this will begin sectional play as the remainder of the regular season happened over this past weekend, and some teams getting last games in. But a lot of things happen because now it's when it gets real for everybody. The tournaments
The girls' tournament finished up on Saturday with 4 state champs, and then we get a 3-day break, and the boys' tournament starts back up again. My perch in the world will be Carmel all week long, and I got the biggest game in the state in week 1, and obviously on night number 1 as well, with Fishers and Westfield drawing each other in the opening round on Tuesday night.
I hate to see that when that happens, but there's sometimes just no way of preventing it when you have as many teams in a certain area as there are up in there. So that's just going to happen, and somebody's going to have to go home early.
Yeah, last year we had the top 3 teams in the state in that sectional. This year there are 3 top 10 teams in that group, a little more space. Fishers and Westfield, the top 2 in terms of that sectional. Noblesville is in the other half of the draw. They play Carmel in the first game tomorrow night. And again, we did not have as much of that this year in terms of kind of the power teams drawing each other immediately out of the chute. I can think of a couple of other examples in smaller classifications. 2 of the best teams in 3A will likely play each other on Friday night, as Addicts and Cathedral on the same side of the bracket at Short Ridge, but they don't play each other the opening night. For the most part, the best teams in sectionals ended up avoiding each other in the draw, and we'll see each other potentially on Saturday. Again, at Carmel is a notable exception.
Yeah, a lot of teams going into, and I don't want to forget, as a matter of fact, especially with you on, you would know more than anyone. There was a terrible loss over the weekend. A former Hamilton Southeastern football player who had already not only had signed, but was enrolled at Pitt to play football for the Pitt Panthers. And unfortunately, a terrible situation in which he would end up losing his life over the weekend.
Correct. And so that young man, as you said, graduated that semester from Hamilton Southeastern and was obviously back home for the weekend and lost his life in an automobile accident. So that news kind of broke yesterday morning, and there's no sense of that. There's nothing you can say to make that hurt go away. And to know that he was literally just starting out in terms of his journey of playing beyond high school, you're gutted for him, his family, and obviously for everybody involved in Hamilton Southeastern.
Absolutely. And from all indications was just a great young man. And anytime you go to a college mid-semester, you're busy. You're doing things
Sure.
well, because that means you have the you have put things in position for you to do that. And so I've heard nothing but great things about him. Just a horrible situation, and we hate to see it, but it happens throughout our lives, and it happened when I was in high school. I remember it desperately from then. And so all thoughts and prayers out to his family, and as well as the Hamilton Southeastern community as well. It's hard to go on from that, but we must move forward. And who is looking? Any teams that you think are a little surprising that may be coming out of this first weekend?
What I would say is this: is that there is a definitive favorite in 4A, maybe not so much in 1A, 2A, 3A. Now I can pick a favorite for you, but the story in 4A is there's Fishers and there's everybody else. Now, does it mean they're unbeatable? No. Westfield led them for a good chunk of their game, and again, they play each other tomorrow night. Fishers did not play well against Zionsville the previous Friday night. Zionsville's good, not great. There's a lot of that in the area this year, a lot of good, not great. That was a 6-point game. The next time out, Fishers beat the Marion County champs in North Central by 30. And so Garrett Weininger may have had his kids' attention, for the next game that wrapped up their season last Tuesday. There is tremendous talent and parity in 3A. You can make a case for 7 or 8 teams winning the 3A championship. In the southern half of the bracket in 4A, I think it is relatively wide open. Lawrence North, Jeff, Center Grove, Ben Davis all made the semi-state last year. Draws are a bit different, but frankly, other than Center Grove of that group, who could still make a regional, they're in a very wide open sectional. All those other teams could make deep runs. The big question is Mark Zachary going to play for Ben Davis? He made a ceremonial appearance in the starting lineup for BD against Addicts on Wednesday, but literally opening tip-off, horn blows, he comes out, did not play on Friday night. And while, it's looking like he's getting close to being medically cleared, he hasn't played all year. And so you don't know what that could mean for Ben Davis. If he plays, even at 75%, that might be enough to kind of get Ben Davis through. It's not out of the realm of possibility that they're playing in the state championship game for a third consecutive year. It's also possible they get beat the first night of the tournament because they play Pike. Their sectional is Avon, Plainfield, Ben Davis, Pike, and Brownsburg. And really, you can make a case for 4 of those teams winning that sectional out of the 5. So, again, there is great balance with one exception. Fishers. Fishers has a chance to run the table, go 30-0, and be a back-to-back state champ in 4A, something we have not had since the days of Odin and Conley and Lawrence North 18 years ago.
And it's kind of wild because you think back at that team, well, they had 2 guys that were legit NBA powers. And I mean,
correct. Yeah.
Conley's still playing, for God's sake. It's like he's up to your grandfather now because he's been playing. So I think in the 17th, maybe 18th.
You nailed it. 17th year. Spot on. Yep.
So that's first of all, that's an unbelievable career by anyone in a professional sports league. But that's Eric Gordon is another one who is also up there 17th or 18th season. But when you have that kind of talent on that kind of a high school team, you understand it. I don't know that Fishers has that kind of talent here. They're just an unbelievable. It's like a team that has a blanket and just throws it all over you when they play.
Correct. So they have 7 college athletes of that group, and it's really a 7-man rotation. They'll occasionally play an 8th or a 9th, but it's 7 in a competitive game. 4 Division I athletes of that group. 2 of them are sophomores. Cooper Zachary looks like the manager. He's going to be a D1 player. He's simply that good. Obviously, Jason Gardner, son of former Mr. Basketball, current Arizona assistant, Jason Gardner Sr. He is a high major player. Just a matter of where he wants to go, where he ends up going. The Kirby kid that comes off the bench, which is ridiculous to say that. He's going to play in the MAC. He's going to play at Miami of Ohio. And then their other D1 athlete is a kid that is as good of a 3-sport athlete as we have had in this state in a long time. It's John Anthony Hall. He is going to go to Stanford to play football. He would probably play for the Indiana All-Stars in basketball. The only rub of that is, Jim, he made the track state finals last year. And the track and field state championship is the same weekend this year as the Indiana-Kentucky All-Star Series. That probably precludes him, from being on the team. He is a potential NFL player 3 or 4 years from now, just like a Mark Zachary. The other kids, there's 2 NAIA kids in the group that are seniors. Miller McCartney going to play at Indiana Wesleyan. Nathan Baker is going to play at Taylor. And then a young man whose dad you know well, Logan Sigler, father Jim, played at Jeffersonville, was part of the 95 Final Four team for Coach Mike Broughton. Logan, as the backup center, is going to go play at Wabash. So they have 7 college basketball players in the group, or again, 7 college athletes, and one of them is going the football route.
It definitely makes a gigantic difference, obviously, why this team has been so dominant. You have such great players, which that's going to make it very difficult for teams to try to upset them, whether it's Jeffersonville or whomever that is.
Sure.
This is a team that is loaded with 7 guys that are very, very talented. Most teams don't have that kind of talent.
And 6 of them all played last year. It was a 9-man rotation last year for Fishers, and the 3 seniors that departed, one's at IU Indy, one's at Huntington, one's at Franklin College. Again, it is a group that this is where Jalen Harrelson was a part of through his sophomore year. When he left, you go, all right, there's Fisher's chance at a state championship, and they have won 53 of 54 games. They are such a cohesive unit, and they are so exceedingly well coached. Again, it is my belief at some point in time, Garrett Weiniger will be a college basketball coach at some point in time. He is in his early 30s. This would be year 6 for him as a high school basketball coach, 5 years at Fishers and 1 year before that at Warren Central. So he's still a very young guy. And if he wants to stay in high school and be a coach for 30, 40 years, God bless him. That's wonderful, and that's great for us that cover high school sports. But I just think kind of the way he's wired, at some point a college is going to give him an opportunity.
I know where there happens to be an open job in college right now.
I'm not sure he's going to make that big of a jump, but he could get there eventually.
Yeah, and it will be something to see because that's a coaching hire that is going to be a major part of this state, but also because of recruiting. Recruiting has to become an important part again for Indiana, and I think that has kind of taken a jump. It's kind of been a hit and miss here of late. We've seen most of the guys that are the high-end talent going elsewhere, whether it's out of state or just to different teams. But Purdue has done a great job with keeping in-state guys around. I'm wondering how that's going to be able to continue with Purdue being able to not start using the portal route a little more often than they have. We'll have to wait and see, but I think they're going to have to start doing that.
I think they will do that too. I mean, everybody's going to adapt to that at some point in time. And I would argue with you that it is easier to recruit because, frankly, you don't have to recruit as many guys. What you have to be when you're a program like an Indiana and a Purdue and a Notre Dame, who obviously doesn't have the results, but has a recruiting class. Again, let's mention Jalen Harrelson again as part of that group that is coming into South Bend. You don't have to recruit as many people, but you have to be on the big ones that are in your state. And obviously the energy and effort that wasn't there for Mike Woodson and company needs to be changed going forward. Are you recruiting 3 or 4 kids in every class? No. Do you have to be on the best player or 2 in your state every year? Yes. And then you fill gaps around that with the portal, as Indiana proved they could do in the offseason. And as you have heard me say numerous times, and most importantly, they have the budget to do it more than most other programs do. So, yes, that is one of the myriad of things that has to be different, whomever the next head coach will be, and a head coach that will probably learn that person's identity, say about 3 or 4 weeks from now.
It's about exactly the timeline I'm thinking, Greg, right on there with that. Because we've seen guys like Mullins and Badunga leave the state, which are great talents, which Flory didn't grow up in Indiana per se. He did for high school sports, but basketball, but originally not from here. But we've seen that happen a lot, and it's always just people want to see the guys stay in state, regardless, whether it's at Purdue or Indiana or Notre Dame. You'd rather see him playing there than at, say, Duke or Michigan State or North Carolina or wherever the case may be.
I understand that, and yes, that's 1,000% accurate. I'm more connected to Braylon Mullins than most, and so for those that know the backstory, his father Josh played for us at IUPUI, was one of our best players on our NCAA tournament team, Gulp, 22 years ago. Josh and I both had more hair when that was the case. We played Kentucky in the tournament back in 2003. And so, frankly, I'm connected to the family. And I can tell you in that case, I think it was more about the fit and the way they felt about Dan Hurley, more so than it was any sort of thing that was, anti-Bloomington. That family is Greenfield, Hancock County, Central Indiana, through and through. It was just the connection that they felt with the coaching staff at UConn. And it's obviously hard to argue the success. And in terms of budget, in terms of fan base, that is something that, where you could phrase it depending on how you want to look at it. IU matches UConn or UConn matches IU, where you are, the end all be all in that state, where it is, everything revolves around your basketball program, but it's the women's basketball program that we're talking about at UConn. So again, for the criticism, I think that is justified for Mike Woodson. I can tell you in this case, it was more about what Dan Hurley did well than what Mike and staff didn't do in this particular case.
Yeah, there's no doubt when you're going up against or talking to a coach that has back-to-back national champions, it carries a little bit of weight to it.
Just a little bit, yeah.
And continuing to bring a good team in. So, I don't doubt that. Everybody has to go where they think is going to be the best for them. And it's like, oh my gosh, how am I forgetting? Trent Sisley, taking his senior year to Montverde. I think that ended up being a great move for him. It seems like his game has just really improved. He's leading Montverde in 3-point shooting, which that's saying something. So everybody's has to do what's best for them in these day and age, and I understand that. This doesn't always work out for fans the way they'd like for it to, but it is what it is.
Sure, understood.
What's up next for you, brother?
So sectional week, I came off a week of having 8 games in 6 days, and I love my job. I'm not exactly digging ditches for a living, but it's nice to be able to go to one site and have teams that I have seen throughout the course of the year, because I think this will be the 5th time I've had Fishers. Westfield, 2nd time I've seen them. Noblesville, 3rd time I've had them. Carmel, I don't have enough fingers and toes to count the times I've had Carmel this year. I know HSE and Zionsville very well. The last 6 years, I have done the sectional that is at Lawrence Central this year. So it's going to be a little weird not to be there. That sectional is different with no Cathedral, no Attucks. Again, LN is the favorite, but the 4 MIC teams, there's not that much separates that group. But it's the joy of being where in the state I am. You could go to the Carmel sectional, the Muncie sectional because of how good Greenfield is, and Anderson's pretty good too. And all of a sudden, here comes Mount Vernon. There's 3 great teams there in that group. The sectional at Lawrence Central is going to be fantastic. And the revamped sectional 11 that I rattled off earlier that Ben Davis is in, that's basically kind of taking the best teams from 2 different sectionals and put them geographically closer to each other and kind of loaded up sectional number 11. So for all of your listeners out there, go watch high school basketball this week, whether it's the 4A level. If you happen to be a fan of a small school team, because of the enlargement of 1A, most of the sectionals are 7 or 8 team sectionals now. In other words, you can go see 2 games on Friday, or 2 games on Tuesday, 2 games on Wednesday, 2 more games on Friday, and 1 more game on Saturday. You get 7 games over the course of 5 days. And so if you think championship week for college basketball is great next week, and it is, we have our version of that in this state in high school basketball this week. Go check it out starting tomorrow night.
And it is an absolute blast, I'm telling you. So I've been preaching it. Go out, catch some high school ball, especially during the tournament. It is nothing but fun and action, baby. Greg Rakestraw from the ISB Sports Network. Keep up with them. You can keep up with everything through Greg and the network and whatnot. Greg, thank you, sir. We appreciate you as always.
Talk to you next week.
Have a great week, brother. Looking forward to it. Greg Rakestraw joining us here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Up next, the voice of the Hoosiers, Don Fischer, will join us as he is on the road to Indiana on the Western Swing. Huge win over Washington. Not that Washington was a great team, but it was how Indiana got that win. Very emphatic. More on that on the backside when we return to the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios after these messages.
At Ben Davis Chevrolet and Ben Davis Ford in Auburn, we're your one-stop shop for all of your automotive needs. We have the area's best selection of over 300 vehicles, including new cars, trucks, vans, and SUVs. Plus a huge selection of pre-owned vehicles in stock. And if we don't have what you're looking for, we'll find it for you. We also have top-of-the-line service and parts, plus a collision repair center, and we're competitively priced on everything. For sales, service, collision, parts, and more, we do it all. Come see us today or visit us online at bendavischevrolet.com and bendavisford.com.
Whether it's a night out with the family, after work with colleagues, or catching the game with friends, Bubba's 33 is the place for you. Bubba's 33 offers a mouthwatering menu of selections that are all made from scratch every day. The portions are big, but the prices are small. And with over 50 big screen TVs, you'll never miss the big game. Bubba's 33, pizza, burgers, beer. If you're looking for a new home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from Brick and Ivy Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl at CherylSizemoreSells@gmail.com or 317-701-0838. That's 317-701-0838. Let Cheryl Sizemore sell or find your new home today. Located on 325 acres in beautiful Brown County, Indiana, Hard Truth Distilling Company is the biggest and the best craft distillery around. While Hard Truth is already known for producing internationally awarded whiskeys and spirits like Hard Truth's sour mash bourbons, sweet mash, and hard road ryes, as well as their cinnamon vodka and the always popular toasted coconut rum. Hard Truth Distillery offers so much more. With a full-service restaurant, ATV, and distillery tours, as well as live music, you can spend an entire day at Hard Truth Distillery while making your entire family or group happy. And that's the Hard Truth. Hard Truth products are available across Indiana, as well as many other states. So no matter where you shop, if they don't carry your favorite Hard Truth product, tell them you want the truth, the Hard Truth. Hard Truth Distilling Company encourages you to enjoy all of their products responsibly and to never drink and drive. And welcome back to the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios on this Monday. And that means our good friend Don Fischer, the voice of the Hoosiers, joins us as he is on part of the West Coast swing with Indiana. As you saw over the weekend, Indiana with their first game at Washington and gets an emphatic win, Don. That was, while Washington is the bottom dweller in the Big Ten, it's still, to me, it was more important about how Indiana won and attacked that game.
I agree with you 100%. When you get on the road here, this West Coast swing is interesting because teams, have come out west and they laid an egg in probably one of the 2 ball games they played. Many of these teams have not been able to sweep out here when they've gone to the West Coast, and Indiana's looking for that now with that win over Washington, which was a dominant performance. I don't think Indiana's played a lot better in any of their ball games recently. They've won 4 of the last 5, but I think the win over Washington, even though Washington is one of those cellar dwellers at this point of the season, they played a really good game against this team and took away their best player. Great Osibor was able to put 4 points on the scoreboard. He was averaging 15 a game and leading them in scoring throughout the season. He's a big, strong kid, 6'8", 250. But he did nothing in this ball game. He got in early foul trouble. He had a couple of free throws in the first half, and he managed only 2 free throws in the second half. Never scored a field goal and was completely missing in this contest because of Indiana's defensive play. So I agree with you. I thought this was a dominant performance by IU, and without doubt, I think it's another shot in the arm for this team, having won 4 of the last 5 now and putting up some of their best basketball of the season.
Oh, without question, I think that they are playing their best basketball season on both sides of the ball, no less, offensively and defensively. And that's a great sign as they are looking to try to make the NCAA tournament. But I think that right now they're probably in, as crazy as that sounds. A win over Oregon would absolutely solidify that. But that's not going to be an easy thing to accomplish. Oregon 10-8 in the conference, and overall they have had a great season as well, 21-8 on the year already. So this is not an easy place to play or an easy team to play, but it will certainly be a great opportunity for the Hoosiers.
No question. This would be a huge win if they can pull it off against Oregon tomorrow night. Oregon's coached by Dana Altman now in his 15th season with this school. His teams at Oregon in the past 15 years, they've had 14 straight 20-plus win seasons. This guy can coach, and he's got a ball club this year I think that he really likes. I think these guys are playing really good basketball at this point in the season. And they just clobbered USC in that matchup that they had over the weekend. So it's going to be interesting to see how Indiana goes about playing defense against this Oregon ball club. They've got a big inside Nate Biddle, who's very talented, I think. They've got really good guard play from Shellstad. Jackson Shellstad is one of them. Keyshawn Bartholomew is another. And their guards are excellent scorers on top of being able to run the show for them. So I think this is a huge challenge for Indiana. Granted, it's no bigger than a Purdue team or a Michigan State team that they've just been able to beat here recently. So I look at this ball game as being a challenge and yet at the same time a very winnable ball game if they play up to their standards of which they've set here in the last couple of weeks, 3 weeks actually.
Yeah, Oregon is a good team. A team that started out on fire at the start of the season, highly ranked and up the top of the Big Ten standings. And now they went through a slump, but they've won 5 straight right now. So they're kind of finding their groove as Indiana is finding their groove. So this could be a heck of a matchup.
No question. I think that's part of it. Both these teams are on a roll at this point in the season. And both, of course, are looking to make the NCAA tournament field. And I think, obviously, Washington is probably in the tournament, no doubt. Oregon is in the tournament, no doubt. But I think Indiana has at least put themselves in a bubble situation. But you've got to take care of business. And Indiana's got 2 games remaining on the regular season schedule. This game against Oregon and then a home game against an Ohio State team that's played some of their best basketball as the season has progressed. And they're playing with Devin Royal this time. When Indiana beat them the first time in Columbus, Royal was not available. So I think these 2 games now, I don't like to get the cart before the horse, if you know what I'm saying. Therefore, I look at these 2 ball games as critical in regard to Indiana making the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, I think that they could. I hate to say you could lose to somebody, but if they were to lose a game, it would definitely be losing to Oregon would be better, would be better because that's a road game and it's not as much of a ding. You come back home, you have to protect the home court, and that means winning over Ohio State again. But a win over Oregon would just really solidify what they're doing, and I think it would put them in the tournament.
I think it's possible. I like I said, I don't like to get ahead of myself because I think these 2 ball games at the end of the season are going to be critical in that regard. And look, Indiana playing its best basketball here at the end of the season kind of reminds me of last year when this team was struggling throughout the January, February schedule, and then all of a sudden they won 4 straight ball games heading to the Big Ten tournament, won a game in the Big Ten tournament for their 5th in a row. But that only got them to 19 wins, and they didn't make the field last year because of the way it was set up. And obviously now with the Big Ten with 20 teams in it, only 15 go. Now they've solidified their way into the Big Ten tournament. But if they would win only one of these last 2 ball games, I think now they're playing for their life's blood in the Big Ten tournament as far as the NCAA is concerned.
Yeah, they will have a higher seed on the first game in the Big Ten tournament, which will also give them another opportunity to solidify their NCAA credibles. So we'll see as they go forward. But it's been fun to watch this team play its best basketball toward the end of the season. A win over Purdue, win over Michigan State, and an emphatic win over Washington. Now, if they can continue that over Oregon, there's no telling what this team might be able to catch fire. They've kind of the newer rotation has really seemed it seems like these guys have found their roles, Don. Each individual have found their roles. Trey Galloway has done a phenomenal job running the point for this team. I mean, those high assist numbers every game in, game out. Even when he doesn't score well, he's still getting the ball to other guys and distributing. And that has been a huge boon for that team.
Well, Miles Rice coming off the bench now, I think has taken a lot of the load of being the point guard off of his shoulders. I think he's been better as the two guard than he was as the point guard. And again, he's coming off the bench at this juncture. And I think the fact that the three seniors on this team, Trey Galloway, Luke Goody, and why am I have a space here, Tech? Leo, Goody, and Galloway, those three guys, they've got Indiana across their chest because they are Indiana kids. And I think that pride factor has been a big scenario as far as this team and how well they're playing at this point in the season as well. I do think all three of those guys have made such a big input on why this team's been successful here down at the end. And you got to give Anthony Lee a lot of credit. He doesn't do anything on a stat sheet that wows you, except he plays hard for 40 minutes, if that's how long he's in there, or 38, whatever it is. I think he had the most minutes in that game against Washington. And his defensive play, he had 3 steals in that contest. His swarming defense has really helped them look better at the defensive end of the floor. And again, this team has got some momentum right now. And momentum, people can say what they want, but momentum comes and goes. But if you've got it, you don't want to lose it. And right now they've got it.
Yeah, and Indiana could be meeting up with Oregon again in the Big Ten tournament, depending on how that seeding goes. And that's another thing that teams are fighting for seeding here at the end of the season.
Yep, there's no doubt. And like I said, I don't like to get ahead of myself. That's why I don't predict they're in the NCAA tournament field, because anything can happen here at the end of the season that would knock them out. And a couple of losses here in the regular season would probably put them right back in the bubble or outside the bubble. So we'll just have to wait and see how it plays out. But this game against Oregon is big. If they could win that one, all of a sudden they've got a chance to finish out the year with a couple of big wins and probably solidify that NCAA tournament spot. So we'll wait and see. Jim, like I said, I don't like to predict. All I know is they're playing some of their best basketball, and this is the time of year you want to be doing that.
And we have to surmise that the newer rotation of just one big at a time in there has been really beneficial. But having Malik Renew come in, man, he has been big off of the bench as well. When he comes in, he has had some great games.
Well, 22 points in that Washington win. That's his season high. He's matched his season high, so that's really a good performance by Malik. And that's coming off, he had some kind of, I think he had an allergic reaction to something that maybe he ate that knocked him out of that Penn State ball game. Whatever it was, they had to take him to the hospital. He was a sick puppy there for a couple of days, but he's bounced back. He looks really good at practices, and the practices I've watched, and he was terrific in that ball game against Washington. So hopefully that plays a big part in what we're seeing as well.
And it's kind of amazing he's been able to bounce back that quickly, because when you get hit by stuff like that, I know Ivicic from Illinois is still battling with that stuff. He had mono or something, and it takes you a while to bounce back. Now, it wasn't quite the same, but if it's bad enough to get you to the hospital, you're pretty sick. But man, to be able to bounce back and have a performance like that and travel, pretty impressive.
Yeah, there's no doubt. This team, like I said, is playing its best basketball here toward the end of the season. It's deja vu all over again with Indiana at this point. If you remember, IU was 19-14. They're finished. That's how they finished the season last year, with 5 wins in a row, including one in the Big Ten tournament. But it wasn't good enough to make the NCAA field. And maybe it's different this year, but I still think they're going to have to win both these ball games at the end of the season to solidify that scenario.
Absolutely, and looking forward to that. And then coming back for a final home game against Ohio State, in which they could really put the stamp on this ending of the season and get maybe a game better than they were last year. And I don't think that the bubble is quite as tough as it was last year, which is helping Indiana a little bit as well.
I think that's right. I like I said, I think this team has the hands and the destiny in their own hands. I think they really do. And if they can beat Oregon tomorrow night, if they can beat Ohio State at home to wrap up the regular season, I think they put themselves in the big dance. And that's what everybody's been playing for here, especially at the end of the year.
Yeah, McKenzie Mbako, he could be a really big, important piece of this if they can get him back going again as well. It seems like he is still kind of up and down in his play.
Yeah, Well, there's little question that defense is his biggest negative. He still struggles on the defensive end of the floor, and sometimes that dictates if he doesn't get off to a great shooting start. The only way he can stay in there is if he plays really hard at the defensive end of the floor and contributes in that area. But a lot of the time these days, guys, if they're not shooting it well, they feel like, well, if I'm not shooting it well, that's all I can do. Well, that's not the case. He can actually rebound because he's 6'9", and he's also a guy that can play very good, get to the rim very easily as well. So just being smart and making the right decisions, I think that's a big key to this basketball team right now. And with those three seniors playing out there as well as they're playing, I think that's been one of the real reasons that they've had success.
Absolutely. And Bryson Tucker, he's kind of been missing in action. And it looks maybe that this is a coaching decision. I'm not sure. Does he have any kind of injuries that we know of?
Nope, he has no injuries. So obviously it's a coaching decision.
Yeah, we'll have to see. Obviously, his shooting not the greatest, but he showed a lot of promise at certain parts of the season. But we'll see if maybe Mike has just settled on the rotation that he has, and this is what he's going with.
Well, I think that's the case. I think when you start winning a few ball games like Indiana has here at the end, you're going to stick with who brung you, so to speak.
Right.
And Bryson, I think he can still come into a ball game and be a factor. But right now, I think that rotation is pretty well set.
It looks like it. What's the schedule up for you, Don?
Well, we nothing going on today except practice. That Indiana practices out here in Eugene, Oregon, for the ball game tomorrow night. So other than that, and getting ready with my stat charts and all those kinds of things, I'm just doing a little studying. Obviously, I'm going back to bed as soon as we're off this air. So
that's what I would be doing too. Oh, it's right on the West Coast out there. No trip to Bandon Dunes, I guess, huh? This time around.
No. Golf is not in the picture, and I'm not going to play with somebody else's clubs.
I hear you, brother. Wish you the best of luck and look forward to you getting back home safely.
Thanks. Appreciate it. Don't forget the ladies have Inside IU basketball tonight. Terry Moore will be on stage with Austin Render at Hoosier Hanks.
There you go. Appreciate you, sir.
See you, bud.
Thank you. There's the voice of the Hoosiers, Don Fischer, joining us here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio as Indiana finishing up their West Coast swing with a game against Oregon, the Ducks, and they've been they're 10-8, so they're kind of like they're just a game off of what Indiana is now. They just started the season so well. They were ranked in were they in the top 15, I think, as high as they got. But now they've won 5 straight games right now. So they're on a bit of a heater. And all of those games coming in the Big Ten, is that right? That means that they would have been 3-8 in conference play at one time. Is that possible? That seems a little crazy. But it is what it is. And the Hoosiers with another opportunity to get not only a Q1 win, but this would solidify, to me, without question, their position in the Big Ten tournament. The Big Ten tournament, the NCAA tournament. I've seen a lot of analytics or whatever you want to call it, brackets that have them in right now at like the 10 spot. So looking a lot better for Indiana than we would have thought, looking better than I thought. I did not think this team was going to make the tournament. I'd said that a long time ago, and I'd said it and I'll be the first one to tell you that I said it. So, but congratulations to them for making this run here at the end of the season. It has been, to me, it has just been the sheer fact of the offense not being predicated on running 2 bigs, and finally that coming to a head when Malik Renew was hurt and they didn't have a choice, and it showed it to them. So we'll see. Fozon's 4 in a row. There you go. Appreciate having Fozon on from Ahmad Jordan. If Woody makes the Elite 8, yeah, that'll be something, huh? There you go. Appreciate you. All right, we've got lots more coming up here at the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios. We'll take a quick break. We'll be back with more and more Big Ten talk on the backside right after these messages. Located on 325 acres in beautiful Brown County, Indiana, Hard Truth Distilling Company is the biggest and the best craft distillery around. While Hard Truth is already known for producing internationally awarded whiskeys and spirits like Hard Truth's sour mash bourbons, sweet mash, and hard road ryes, as well as their cinnamon vodka and the always popular toasted coconut rum. Hard Truth Distillery offers so much more. With a full-service restaurant, ATV, and distillery tours, as well as live music, you can spend an entire day at Hard Truth Distillery while making your entire family or group happy. And that's the Hard Truth. Hard Truth products are available across Indiana, as well as many other states. So no matter where you shop, if they don't carry your favorite Hard Truth product, tell them you want the truth, the Hard Truth. Hard Truth Distilling Company encourages you to enjoy all of their products responsibly and to never drink and drive. Ugly Grouper, located on beautiful Anna Maria in Florida, is the place to be, and not just because they have unforgettable meals, including locally sourced seafood. The Ugly Grouper has your favorite craft beers and cocktails, along with live music every day. The Ugly Grouper is family-friendly, able to host private parties, and has the biggest grouper you've ever seen. The Ugly Grouper is the place to be on Anna Maria Island, Florida. Tell them Indiana Sports Beat sent you. Go to theuglygrouper.com for more information. When it comes to apparel and promotions, Freethink has you covered, literally, whether it's 24 or 200 shirts for sports leagues, businesses, or groups. Freethink Apparel and Promotions can also create your very own merchandising store. Freethink Apparel and Promotions did it for Indiana Sports Beat Radio, and they can do it for you. Whether it's screen printing, embroidery, digital printing, promotional products, vehicle wraps, or anything else under the promotional line. See what Freethink Apparel and Promotions can do for you at freethinkapparel.com.
At Ben Davis Chevrolet and Ben Davis Ford in Auburn, we're your one-stop shop for all of your automotive needs. We have the area's best selection of over 300 vehicles, including new cars, trucks, vans, and SUVs. Plus a huge selection of pre-owned vehicles in stock. And if we don't have what you're looking for, we'll find it for you. We also have top-of-the-line service and parts, plus a collision repair center, and we're competitively priced on everything. For sales, service, collision, parts, and more, we do it all. Come see us today or visit us online at bendavischevrolet.com and bendavisford.com.
Welcome back to the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios on this Monday. Glad to have you along for the ride, no matter where or how you're listening. Appreciate you, whether it's on one of our great affiliates like 97.7 ESPN The Ref, always the right call down in Evansville, or on the voice of the region up in the region, 1230 AM, 104.7 FM WJOB, and in Fort Wayne on Fort Wayne's only sports station, 1380 The Fan. Keep it locked right here all day. No reason to go anywhere else. And if you happen to be following along on YouTube, you can just hit the like button. Do something nice for us. Hit that like button. We appreciate you. A big weekend in the Big Ten, man. Some games. Let's see. I was on the wrong page here. Michigan State, though, has solidified themselves as the leader in the conference, and they did it in a big way. But Michigan, they took a butt whipping from Illinois at home yesterday. Watched that game. It was kind of wild. But let's see, going back to Friday night, there was a game, I guess, two games. Purdue gets past UCLA at home, 76-66. While it was Northwestern over Iowa at home. Iowa, there's no doubt that I have to imagine that Fran McCaffrey is probably in his last season there at Iowa. I'm kind of going to miss that, though, to be honest with you. Missing the Fran Con faces and all that. What will he do next? Will he go someplace else? It'll be curious to see. Other games in between then and now, Penn State could not handle Maryland at home. They lose 68-64 as the Terrapins continue their winning ways. Minnesota upsets Nebraska on the road, 67-65, putting a dent in Nebraska's hope for postseason play in the NCAA. And then Oregon, man, They put it on USC 82-61. So Oregon looking strong again. They're at home, and they get another home game tonight. Indiana beat Washington 78-62 in a game that they were in control of most of the way. And Michigan State with a big-time win, 71-62 over Wisconsin. Now, that was at home for Michigan State, but still, it's a big win. Wisconsin had been one of the teams that had been rising up, trying to take a shot at the number one spot, but Michigan State said, not so fast, my friend, as they have established themselves as the leader, especially after the Illini go to Ann Arbor, and they put it on Michigan 93-73. Man, Illinois had been kind of dinged up a little bit. Ivisic had the flu. Before that, he had mono. I mean, he lost 13 pounds. And so we're just getting back his strength. And man, they look good. As a matter of fact, ever since Dusty May has signed that big extension with Michigan, I think he's winless. I think they've had 2 games since then, and he's lost both of them. One was at home to Michigan State, and this one was at home to Illinois. So just saying, just putting that out there. But right now, the standings as Michigan State by themselves, winners of 5 straight, at the top, 15-3. Michigan still right behind them, a game back at 14-4. And those 2 teams play each other at the end of the season, don't forget, at Michigan State. So Michigan not quite out of it just yet. Maryland and Purdue, a couple games back, as well as Wisconsin. So it's a 3-way tie for 3rd, 4th, and 5th there. But neither of those teams can make a run with only 2 games remaining in the conference play. Then you've had UCLA, Illinois, Oregon, and Indiana. And I expect all of those teams to make the NCAA tournament now, unless Indiana loses both. They cannot lose Oregon and to Ohio State. You can lose to Oregon, I believe, and come back home and get the win over Ohio State, whose metrics numbers are better than what they're looking right now. But Ohio State, they're on the Mendoza line. They look to be in the tournament, but now they are fading. They're 8-10 in conference play. And if Indiana was to beat them, that would give them an 11th loss. So they'll have a losing record in the Big Ten, no matter what. They're going to be close. But Indiana, surprisingly, holding and clinging on to the possibility of making it into the NCAA tournament, and their destiny is in their hands. I mean, Don said it. I've said it before. It's up to them. All they have to do is win one of these final 2 regular season games. I think you need to win a Big Ten game because you're going to be the higher seed in that. And for that reason, mainly only. But it'll be a shocker for Indiana to climb back into the tournament, but that does not change anything as far as the coaching regime and all of that. Just making the tournament is not good enough. Climbing into the tournament like this, not good enough, especially with a team with the roster that they have. So there you go. Don't get all excited. Everybody's just kidding on that one. This team cannot beat Auburn or Houston. No, but most teams can't. I would agree with that. But Elite 8 is gettable. Yeah, I don't see that either. Personally, Indiana has beating Michigan State was a shocker. Let me tell you. But ever since then, Michigan State has just went on a heater. They haven't lost since losing to Indiana. They won 5 straight. How good can this team be? I could see them winning a game, possibly 2 in the NCAA tournament. I don't know about that second game, but we'll certainly find out. Let's just hope that they're not in the. Right now, they're not in the play-in game either. I think that if they're in, they're in, It's not going to be a play-in situation, at least not now. It will depend on what happens going forward with Oregon and Ohio State, as the Indiana will finish the season with those two teams, both of which are upper-level teams. Ohio State, like I said, the 10th place team in the Big Ten right now. Oregon in 8th place. So it's not like Indiana gets to play some of the bottom feeders on the way out, except for Washington, which they won that game the way they were supposed to win it. That's something that they haven't done all year long. There are plenty of games that they had early in the season, kind of like why their metrics numbers are not as great as they could be. They did not always win the games they were supposed to win the way they were supposed to win them, and that does matter. But right now, they are playing well. Andrew, I agree with you. At the moment, they are playing well. But at the moment, they are also running the one big system and not forcing the two big. As a matter of fact, the other day against Washington, Indiana had a sizable lead. I think they were up by 19 when the buddy ball made its appearance with Ballo and Renew both on the floor at the same time, and the lead shrank down. Did it get all the way to single digits? I can't remember, but I know that it shrank. And yeah, that's just not the way to go. And they'll be a lot better off if they just don't try to force it. But Luke Goody looked really good in his shooting. He looked very smooth. Indiana just getting so much better production out of guys in the roles that they're playing. Anthony Leal, even. He doesn't have to score. He can do other things. He had 4 assists in that game the other day. As a matter of fact, him and Trey Galloway combined for 11 assists in that game. You'll take that pretty much most of the time. That's something that you're always going to want to have. You can never complain about that. Oh, man. How will it go? How will it go? Tourney time is here all the way around, whether we're talking high school or college. Looking forward to it all happening. And that's going to pretty much wrap it up for the first hour. We've got lots more coming up as Dustin Dopirak will join us. The Pacers keep winning, and we'll talk more about Big Ten and college basketball overall. Who do you think is going to win this? It's hard to go against a team from the SEC. I mean, Auburn looks really good. Tennessee looks really good. Alabama looks really good. Florida looks really good. They have 4 teams that legitimately can win the national championship, I think. We'll talk about that and much more on the backside as we hit the break from the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios. Glad to have you along. Back with more right after this break. Located on 325 acres in beautiful Brown County, Indiana, Hard Truth Distilling Company is the biggest and the best craft distillery around. While Hard Truth is already known for producing internationally awarded whiskeys and spirits like Hard Truth's sour mash bourbons, sweet mash, and hard road ryes, as well as their cinnamon vodka and the always popular toasted coconut rum. Hard Truth Distillery offers so much more. With a full-service restaurant, ATV, and distillery tours, as well as live music, you can spend an entire day at Hard Truth Distillery while making your entire family or group happy. And that's the Hard Truth. Hard Truth products are available across Indiana, as well as many other states. So no matter where you shop, if they don't carry your favorite Hard Truth product, tell them you want the truth, the Hard Truth. Hard Truth Distilling Company encourages you to enjoy all of their products responsibly and to never drink and drive. If you're looking for a new home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from Brick and Ivy Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl at CherylSizemore@gmail.com or 317-701-0838. That's 317-701-0838. Let Cheryl Sizemore sell or find your new home today. Whether it's a night out with the family, after work with colleagues, or catching the game with friends, Bubba's 33 is the place for you. Bubba's 33 offers a mouthwatering menu of selections that are all made from scratch every day. The portions are big, but the prices are small. And with over 50 big screen TVs, you'll never miss the big game. Bubba's 33, pizza, burgers, beer. Andy Moore Honda is Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer for a reason. Buy a new Honda and get a 3-month break from car payments. That's right, no payments for 90 days. That includes the all-new, all-electric Honda Prologue, and you get it for just 0.9% financing. Or the 2024 Honda Ridgeline Black Edition or the Honda Accord LX, both for just 1.9% financing. Get more to your door from AndyMooreHonda.com, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer and your best place for new and used vehicles. Welcome back to the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios on this Monday. I hope you're doing well and had a great weekend. How was it? What did you do? Just relax like me and watch some hoops, some sports. Watch a little bit of everything. You had the IndyCar racing at St. Petersburg. You had NASCAR racing. All kinds of things going on. The Pacers rolling on. Tyrese Halliburton rolling on as well as they keep winning. And looking forward to talking to Dustin, hopefully, because Tyrese Halliburton set a mark that apparently has never been set before in the history of the NBA. And that is to reach 500 assists in a season before having 100 turnovers. 5-to-1 ratio. Not bad. Not bad. So look forward to talking to Dustin about that. But Pacers still going, man. You got to give it to them. Now they coming off of a 127-112 win over the Bulls. And now they will head well, actually, that's not true. Or is that true? I'm confused. Yeah, yesterday they beat the Bulls. But back on, was it Friday? Friday they lost to the Heat in Miami. And a couple days before that, they won over the Raptors. So up tomorrow, the Pacers and the Rockets at home, and then Indy hits the road down to Atlanta to take on the Hawks for back-to-back games and back-to-back games in Atlanta, which makes sense. Then they come home and play the Bulls again, which they just beat last night, but this time they go up to Chicago for that. Dustin Dopirak from the Indy Star joining us now. Dustin, how are you doing, sir? How was your weekend?
Not bad, Jim. How was yours?
Could not complain. Plenty of basketball just to watch. Was just talking about the Pacers keeping their winning ways going. As Tyrese Halliburton, I was pointing out something that I saw in the Star that you pointed out, that apparently he has done something that nobody has ever done in NBA history, which that's always something to write home about. But 500 assists before logging 100 turnovers, man, a 5-to-1 ratio, the way he handles the ball with the frequency, that's pretty damn good.
Yeah, it is. It's the second best ratio in the league, basically, among sort of point guards. Got people who, start and handle the ball with some degree of regularity. The only one who has a better one right now is Chris Paul. I think Halliburton's at 5.11 and Paul is at 5.25. And, Halliburton's getting more assists. And really the what's really put him over the edge is this stretch since the break. I mean, he's just a different player since the break. I mean, different is maybe unfair because he's an enhanced version of himself. He's not doing anything like strict crazy different, but he's just better. He looks more explosive. I mean, you could tell the rest really helped. So 6 games since the break, 69 assists, 6 turnovers. So 5 straight double-figure assist games. He was having trouble getting the double figures in assists, but he's playing downhill. I'm like, obviously, in the NBA, they're pretty generous about assists. You can, tee a guy up if you throw the ball to the guy at the wing and then he drives from the wing and scores, you get an assist for that. Like in college, it doesn't really go that way. Like it has to be a little more direct. It's basically like if the guy has to take like a bunch of dribbles to score, you don't get the assist. In the NBA, they're pretty lax about that. But or they're like I said, they're generous. But still, a lot of these are the real deal, basically. And he's just piling them up. But he's also and a big part of the reason why he's piling them up is he's also shooting exceptionally. He's shooting over 60% since the break. He's averaging like 23 a game, somewhere in that range. So he's like 23 points, like 11.8 assists a game. Like he's been one of the best players in the league since the All-Star break. Obviously, it's not a huge sample size yet. We're still talking about 6 games. But you just kind of see a bounce in a step that wasn't there. And I don't know. I mean, I think a lot of people are like, well, he should have sat out. He should have taken more time. And I don't know that would have been better. And, there are probably games that they would have thrown away that they won because he played even at, maybe not 100% capacity. But he just needed a break. I mean, I think he he told us, he's like, I went to Mexico, I chilled out, I didn't get on the basketball court at all. I watched The Wire. Read
The Wire. Wow,
yeah.
Going back to a good one.
So yeah, well, he's you got to remember he's a young man. So like The Wire came out when he was like 3.
I'm saying to choose that is remarkable because I don't know how many people his age understand that's one of the greatest shows ever out there.
Yeah, no, I mean, he knew it was there. I mean, he was telling us, he's like, I've got a girlfriend, so we always pick like kind of, he used the phrase chick flicks. He was like, we've watched Grey's Anatomy, we've watched, Gossip Girl. He's like, they're good shows. He says, but today, he's like, this weekend, I put my foot down and I said, I'm going to do something for myself, and I watched The Wire. And he told me he was into season 5 as of Wednesday, and then he finished it. He came in the locker room, Sunday in pregame, and he saw me and Tony East, and he said, "Okay, I finished The Wire. I've got it. I'm good. I'm all right. Cool. Bubbles is his favorite character. He says, obviously Omar's up there, Lester Freeman's up there, and that's the case I think for most people. I mean, you can't not like those 3. Those are top of the line guys there. But yeah, so I mean, you
just can't finish it.
Yeah. But one way or another, he got through it. And I think he just looks like another player on the other side of this. I mean, you could just tell that like he just has a whole new amount of energy, shots going down. I mean, he's ripping from 3. He's over 50%, 53% from 3 since the break. I mean, at some point, Water's going to find his level. He's going to have a game where it doesn't go as well. But when you're talking about 6 games straight where he's really played well, I mean, I think he's got at least I'm going to have to look at this. Nothing less than 17 points and nothing less than 9 assists in any of these games. And he has exactly 1 turnover in each game. So that's it.
Sometimes it's just about, literally clearing your head. And that probably did just that by engaging in something that took the time that it took to watch that. Completely just kind of wipes everything else out.
Yeah, and you got to remember just how much he's been asked to do. I mean, like last All-Star break was the least break you could possibly have. I mean, it was here, and he was the center of attention all the time. He was expected to participate in basically everything, and obviously didn't need to go anywhere, which is helpful. But, he's downtown every night doing something. I think he lives in like Carmel or something like that. And it's, it was like there was a kickoff tournament, and then he did the skills competition, he did the 3-point competition, but it was just any number of, public facing events that he had to, sign up and show up for. And they all did that, last year. And so, I mean, you could tell that there's a difference this year that, the only guy who had to go out there was Pascal Siakam. Nobody did 3-point, nobody did skills challenge, nobody did rising stars this year. So like they only sent one guy out there, and you can tell even that he's a little bit more worn out than everybody else. But he's, everybody else, Halliburton and Turner have looked great. Turner kind of fell off a little bit yesterday, but he'd been really shooting the ball phenomenally well. Aaron Nesmith, who, missed 35 games with an ankle sprain from November through, into the middle of January. He looks a lot better. He scored 27 last night, hit 6 threes, just looked terrific. A lot of guys just look like they really made the most of that and energized themselves. I mean, Ben Matherin's, apparently hurt and got a couple ailments, and they're obviously giving him some time to rest up. Now I think he's this he's missed 2 games. He might miss a third. We'll see on Tuesday. But, for the most part, a lot of these guys have come back re-energized, just rejuvenated. And, they also lost a game on Friday. They probably shouldn't have lost to Miami in Miami. But, all the same, they've played, pretty well. I think they're 4-2 since the break. And the guys they really needed to get going have got going.
And is this team now, the way they're playing, a lot more relaxed and with production coming from different directions, but especially from the guys you need it to come from? Is this a team how far can this team go, I guess, is the question.
I mean, I think it can go far, but the issue is there are 2 really good teams at the top in the East. Whereas last year you had one really good team at the top, and it was just, it was a free for all after that. Basically, like, everybody was close in the standings. There wasn't a huge difference in talent level. It didn't seem like from 2 to 8. I mean, you're talking, it was like 3 games difference between 2 and 8 in terms of wins. And so, you're like, everybody was gettable, and they, kind of, fortunately for them, ended up on the right side of the bracket. I mean, sometimes like, when you have one really good team, like, you don't want the 4-5. You want the 3, or you want the 6, or you want the 7. You want to be on the bottom half of that bracket because you got a path. And the difference is this year is probably, you're like, unless something goes surprisingly haywire for either one of these, you're looking at Cleveland and Boston, kind of staring at you in the Eastern Conference semis. You're playing a predominantly road series against one of those 2. I mean, right now, they're in the 5 seed, basically, like, they're playing basically back and forth with Milwaukee, who would get the 4, who would get the 5. In that case, would you be basically, would you host basically 4 out of 7 in that series? Is kind of where they're at. The Pistons are right behind them at 6. And I guess there's an argument you can make that the Pacers would be better off if they let the Pistons and the Bucks both pass them. But you'd have to beat the Knicks right out of the gate. And they have not had great success against the Knicks, but maybe you hope that they are that the same thing happens to them that happened to them last year, is that Tibbs just runs them absolutely into the ground. Because, I mean, I don't know if this is still the case, but it was for a while, that, like, you look at the minutes leaders, and it's like 5 Knicks at the top of it, because he's just playing them to death, and relying on Brunson and Hart and Bridges and Anunoby and Towns to the point that he's going to wear him out. And maybe you have a chance of getting that series, even though you're going to play 4 out of 7 at the Garden. Maybe you got a chance of getting that one maybe better than you do, even better than you do getting Milwaukee. I mean, it's probably a toss-up. I mean, Milwaukee and the Knicks are both really going to want to beat the Pacers because they are very bothered by what happened last year. But, like, you're looking at one of them in the first round, but would you rather, does Boston look a little bit more vulnerable? Because they've been dinged up with some injuries. Drew Holiday is going to miss some time. He's got, like, a really bad, I guess, finger break. And he hasn't been quite as good as he was last year. Porzingis always misses time. Like, maybe you can catch them, and especially, Boston's basically, if Boston makes 3s, you can't touch them. But if they don't, they're vulnerable. So maybe you're better off being on the other side of that. Cleveland looks awesome. I mean, Cleveland looks awesome. They're getting, if they're not,
they've looked good all year long.
Yeah, they've been phenomenal. I mean, what are they at now? They got to be getting close to 50 wins already. If they're not, they're Cleveland's 50-10 right now. They've won 10 in a row. They look terrific. I mean, and so
that's an 80% winning percentage.
Yeah, 83. So it's pretty wild. And the Celtics are at 70%. They're 43-18 is really, really good. And I don't think, if they win one round, I mean, basically, I think if you're the Pacers, I mean, the most important thing you can do here, you just want to continue to be in the mix. I mean, it's like, obviously, you go for the gold. You get into one of those series, you get Boston or Cleveland in the semis, you just go all out. You lay it all out there, and you get what you can get. I mean, like, obviously, you don't say, like, okay, well, if we get there, we're done. Like, you don't pack it in when you get to one of those 2 teams, but. If you lose to one of them, there's no shame in that. Like, if it ends up being Cleveland and Boston, which is what everyone thinks it's going to be in the East, like, if you lost to one of them in the semis, like there's no, like you don't come away from the season feeling like it's a failure. But I mean, I think it's a big deal. It's still a good deal for them if the Pacers get into a series. I don't think it's a failure if they lose in the first round. If they go win, 48, 49, 50 games somewhere in that stretch, and basically they get a really good Knicks team or they get a really good Bucks team, and they make it a series but they don't win it. Like I don't think that's a huge failure. Like I don't think you have to like reconsider who's on the team, make drastic moves. Like I don't think they're in bad shape. But like I think you feel really good about yourself if you still go win a series. I mean, Milwaukee and the Knicks are still good. Those are two very, very talented teams. Led by like certain, not only all-stars, but like guys that are going to be first and second team All-NBA, with Brunson and Towns on the East, on the Knicks side, and obviously Giannis and Dame, on the Bucks side. You take one of those down, that's a deal. That's still a big deal. If you just get, if you win one of those series, and that's where you go down, like you're pretty proud of that. If you can make it a series with Cleveland or Boston, that's a feather in your cap, I think, because those teams look really good. They both look like they can win the whole thing.
Something else that you've got a piece up on is Aaron Nesmith and how he has become just a huge part of what they're doing as well, and how he came in and changed Sunday's game. But the sheer fact that you can have someone like that come in and change a game, that shows you how much power you actually have.
Yeah, I mean, they've got a lot of depth. I mean, that's always been their thing. I think, if you look at, all right, well, what you consider them as a playoff team, as good as Halliburton and Siakam are, and they're very, very, very good, you wouldn't put them in that top 5 to 10, player range, basically at this point, across the whole league, both conferences. But I think, like what they have that not everybody else does have is depth. And at the end of the day, that's why they were able to beat the Bucks and the Knicks last year, is that when you look at second units, they have more in there. And Nesmith's not a second unit guy right now. He's obviously been moved on to the starting lineup, where Mathurin's moved back to the bench before they kind of shut him down for a couple games. But, being able to say, okay, your fifth guy, your sixth guy, your seventh guy can step up and really make an impact, makes a difference. I mean, they do a lot of shuffling. I mean, they only have so much kind of pure second unit time where it's 5 subs out there. A lot of times it's kind of a mix and match kind of deal. But they can put out a lineup that's, McConnell, Mathurin, Nesmith, Toppin, Thomas Bryant, and that's a really good lineup. I mean, and, you can put Halliburton on the bench there, but you still have a lot of talent. You can go McConnell, Nembhard, and either Nesmith or Mathurin, and, Toppin and Bryant. And, you can mix and match these lineups that you're putting out, just tough groups, and being able to get your guys rest, that you're not playing anybody 40 minutes a game. I mean, it's very rare that they play anybody 40. And, usually you're keeping your starters around 35. And so you're able to keep them fresh over the course of a season, and you're able to do it even in the playoffs. I mean, I think that was what they did really well last year. I mean, Toppin and McConnell were 2 of like the top 5 scorers among bench guys in the entire playoffs. And so, they got a lot of production from both of those guys. And so that is one of their superpowers. I mean, both Boston and Cleveland have really good benches, and a couple guys that have been, really taking it up a notch. I mean, Ty Jerome over in Cleveland is a name you might have forgot about a little bit. I got to check and make sure Maxine's not getting into trouble over here. But, like he's a guy that you kind of might have forgot about how good he was in Virginia. I mean, he's been a very key piece for them. Peyton Pritchard's been one of the best subs in the league for Boston, but they don't necessarily have like 5 guys on that second unit that you're afraid of. They have like 2 or 3, and that can get you there for like in a playoff series for the most part. But like the Pacers are going to have an advantage where they can go deeper, and they can ask a lot of guys to score, to rebound, distribute, defend, like a lot of guys that they can really trust. And so that's going to be one of their biggest advantages, one of the biggest advantages last year. She's been a trip today. Like that. So, but it is something that gives them a shot at, taking down a team like that.
Yeah, and scoring a career high, 27 points, doesn't matter the number, but scoring a career high shows that he's at his optimum point right now. And there's nothing that you could want more so than to have guys like that coming in off the bench, being at their optimum high at the moment.
Yeah, no, certainly. I mean, obviously it's taken a while for Nesmith to get back to who he is. I think his, games before the break, between the time he returned from the injury and basically the All-Star break, he was averaging like 6.8 a game. You just saw that he didn't have the same kind of endurance that you used to see him have. Obviously he could score the basketball, play defense. He's one of their most high energy guys, and you weren't seeing that from him. He was working really hard, you could tell, but like laboring. You can sense with the guy, he's come back, but doesn't have his wind back, doesn't have his conditioning all the way there. You just know you're looking at a guy that's not 100%. It wouldn't be better if he sat out. He has to play his way back into shape, and that's what he did. Basically, he kept going at it. Then ramped up, basically like picked up his minutes. You saw his conditioning come back, then you saw the break, and then it's like, okay, like now the guy that you're seeing now is much closer to being the player they need.
And then Jahlil Okafor, his position open now after not being retained after his 10-day spot. And what do you think? Obviously they'll pick someone back up as you get closer.
They just did on Saturday, I guess. I think it was Saturday. Tony Bradley is a name I'd forgotten about. He was the bench big on the 2017 Carolina title team. So like behind Kennedy Meeks, that's going back there for me too. But he was, I think, the 28th. That's how good they were. That he was basically the 28th pick, and he was the bench big. He was left after his freshman year. And so he's played like 180, something like that, NBA games. He was playing with the Hawks G League affiliate, and you can just sign guys off of other teams' G League affiliates. So he's put up pretty good numbers there. I think he was averaging like 14 and 10, somewhere in that regard. And so they picked him up. They basically, like, word broke Saturday. I think it was officially, basically kind of official Sunday, and he was at the arena yesterday. He played like the last couple minutes when they had built a double-figure lead. In the last couple minutes, he played maybe 2. And so, basically, like, all it is having a third center. Basically having another guy who's an option. Again, like center is one of those positions. Obviously, you're gonna get beat up. There's certain spots where you have to have a guy just for that. Like it's important to have a third center, even if he barely plays. It's just having another big option that if Turner misses a game or if Bryant misses a game, you've got somebody else. They've been asking Obi Toppin to really play those minutes at the 5, and he can do it, but he just doesn't have, he's 6'9" as opposed to, 6'11", 7 foot. You just want to have one of those like really big bodies. And so that's kind of what they wanted to do. I guess I don't know why they didn't think Okafor was, the guy for that. He is, again, still, getting back to, I guess you'd say, full health. I haven't watched him play since the beginning of this year, when he was still, you could tell the Achilles tendon tear he had a couple of years back was still affecting him. He was really having a hard time running. But he looks, from the waist up, he looks in remarkable condition. Like he's just, his ability to handle the ball, his ability to pass, his ability to shoot, close to the rim. He's a powerful looking dude. And so you look at Okafor and you say, okay, well, that's what everybody thought he was going to be, like how he's built physically. He's just been through it. And so you're not sure, okay, like can he run the same way these guys want to run, and that's kind of a tough question. So I guess that's the decision that they must have made, is to say, he's not going to be able to keep up with us. That's my guess, is that's how it must have been. But he's been doing just phenomenal stuff in the G League. He's got to be averaging like 19 and 10, 19 and 11, somewhere in that regard. So, they might give Bradley a 10-day and go back to Okafor. I'm not sure. Just there's deadlines coming up in terms of when you can do this. We'll obviously see. So they got to make another decision 10 days from yesterday if he's going to be the guy, going forward.
Yeah. So what has Rick Carlisle done differently? Has he changed some things with the rotation? And we get some comments here about it. I
saw some of the comments pop up. I think like it's fascinating to watch people talk about Carlisle's rotations up close. It's, like you obviously see fan reaction being different to that, because one thing is that there are people that are upset that Mathurin isn't starting. There are people that are upset that Jarris Walker, who was their number 8 pick in 2023, has barely played lately. Basically the addition of Nesmith has really taken Walker out of the rotation almost entirely, and people are like, hey, these are 2 young guys. And like, you gotta remember, the Pacers didn't have a top 10 pick or top 9 pick between 1989 and 2022. Like, they were always decent enough that they were at least picking outside of the top 10 every year in that stretch. I mean, even when they didn't have great teams, they had, picking 10th, picking 11th, somewhere in that. I think Reggie was a number 11 pick. You got to go back to Rick Smits, to a guy that was kind of in the top 9 before Matherin. So Matherin and Walker are 2 pretty big assets. I mean, you would think, okay, like if you don't have a top 10 pick for that long, then, your lottery guys should be, your kind of roster foundations, basically, like, foundations of what you're doing. And, Carlisle hasn't necessarily said, okay, I'm building around these guys because we spent these picks on them. We got to make these a huge deal. It's like, no, I like what Halliburton does. I think he should be the centerpiece of all this. I think Miles Turner is one of my best guys. Pascal Siakam, they went out and got Pascal Siakam. It's like when Walker and Matherin take the jobs, they take the jobs. And if I like Matherin more coming off the bench and scoring, if I feel like that's a better fit for him, when he doesn't have to kind of make his way of being, the 3rd or 4th option next to Siakam and Halliburton, if he gets to be that guy in the second unit that's supposed to go score, then, like maybe that's better for him. Maybe that's a better option. I mean, there's another question about, was it better for him to be forced in the starting lineup and figure out how he needs to operate differently? There's kind of a balance there, but it really is just a belief in depth and trust in the depth, and and they're wearing people down, but they're also playing full court pressure defense. I think that's one thing that's the game changer this year, is that they really committed to picking up full court man to man. Like they're not running, like zone traps or anything like that. Nobody's doing that in the NBA, but, just really believing that you can, on a nightly basis, bring it, with all 5 of your guys. I mean, and not only have your point guard jamming, or your kind of lead ball handler defender like Nembhard, jamming the ball handler. Like basically if the other team says, all right, well, we're to avoid that, we've got a 3 or a 4 with good handles, like we'll let him bring it up so he can kind of avoid, just dealing with Nembhard, just getting all up in him. Then they go and they say, all right, well, we'll put Pascal Siakam and ask him to defend 94 feet. We'll have Nesmith defend 94 feet. Like we'll have Halliburton defend 94 feet. He's not the best on the ball, keep you in front of him type guy, but he'll at least harass you for a couple dribbles. And over the course of time, that wears you out. And their turnover numbers, that they're causing a lot of turnovers. I mean, really since like January, they're like top 3 in the league in, average opponent turnovers, and so like, that's where you're seeing the wear out, is that, you're getting the ball back a lot of times and they're not turning it over themselves. So that I think has been kind of, if you look at one kind of statistical difference, it's that, and it comes from depth. And it's, and when you take out, Siakam or Nembhard or something like that, you've got, TJ McConnell is as good at playing full court pressure defense as anybody who's played the game. Like he's as good as anybody of taking that kind of initial baseline inbounds pass when you're not paying attention, just taking the ball off you. I mean, that he's made a career doing that. So all those guys, create this level of pressure, this level of intensity, and wear you out. And so, I mean, like that's been slowly built over time. And, I think a big thing is it's just a big step to say, we're going to trust this. I mean, because even when we talked to them at the, even like the front office, when the season started, because they did a lot of it in the playoffs, and we're like, okay, can you do that? Like how much do you think you can legitimately do that in the 82-game regular season? And they're like, yeah, I mean, only so much. I mean, like it's got to be a thing, but like puts a lot of wear and tear on you. But they've trusted it, and they've believed in it. Like again, they got guys like Ben Shepherd coming off the bench, so you can really go ball hawk somebody. And it's turned out. I mean, I do think there seemed to be some wear and tear on them at the break, and some of it might have come from that. But they've been able to shake that off, and so it's just a question of can you, basically, can you put the pedal to the metal down the rest of the stretch and it not cause a problem for you if you're still pressing that much.
And last year they made kind of a surprise run there in the tournament and getting all the way to the finals. But this year they're not going to sneak up on anyone. But no, they also seem to be in better position this year going into the tournament than they did, although we're not there yet. But they just seem like they're in a better position right now today than they were 1 year ago.
They are, and it helps. The other thing that has helped them out, and is like again last year you had this really balanced league. But like this year you have it's a little bit more top heavy, and then like whereas the West looks really strong from 7 to 10, like there's gonna be a good team that gets the 10 seed in the West. Like in the East you're gonna get the 10 by default. It's a question of like right now it's between I think the Bulls and the Bulls are 10th at 24-37. The Sixers are 11th at 21-38. The Nets are 21-39. Between those three, it's like they're going to be the last postseason team. And everybody from 7 to 10 is under 500 right now. And so you've been able to kind of take advantage of that. You'll be able to get some level of cushion. I mean, you want to get a top. You want to get a top 6 seed, obviously, so you don't have to bother with the play-in round. The Pacers right now have a 6-game cushion on the play-in round. And the Pistons are right behind them, and they have a 5-game cushion on the playoff round. So, last year they had to worry about that. Is the last day of the year. They clinched the 6th seed. And because, again, it was that close from, and if they got a couple breaks, they could have been the 4. That's how nuts it was at the end of last season. It's not going to be like that on the East side, this year. It's going to be tight, I think, between, them, Milwaukee, and Detroit. It could come down to the last game between who's the 4, who's the 5, who's the 6. But it won't be like, okay, are you going to be in a playoff round, a play-in game on Tuesday or Wednesday, or do you get the whole week off? Like, it's not going to come down to that, unless, somebody like, Miami or Orlando goes nuts and, both of those teams have been hamstrung by a variety of things. Obviously Miami, the Jimmy Butler situation, Orlando's had a bunch of injuries. Jalen Suggs is still down. Paolo Banchero and Franz Wagner missed time. I mean, they've just really gotten beat up. And I thought that was going to be a really good team. So they're in a position where, they can feel pretty confident about being a top 6 seed and just knowing that you're not going to have to worry about being in a playoff play-in round.
Is this true? Joel Embiid has Bell's palsy?
That's news to me. I mean, he's out for the season with knee stuff. So I don't know anything about Bell's palsy. So.
Yeah, that's news to me as well. Dustin Dopirak, the beat writer for the Indy Pacers, with the Indy Star with us. We've got more coming up. Glad to have you along for the ride. We'll take a quick break and be back with more from the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios right after these messages. Andy Moore Honda is Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer for a reason. Buy a new Honda and get a 3-month break from car payments. That's right, no payments for 90 days. That includes the all-new, all-electric Honda Prologue, and you get it for just 0.9% financing. Or the 2024 Honda Ridgeline Black Edition or the Honda Accord LX, both for just 1.9% financing. Get more to your door from AndyMooreHonda.com, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer and your best place for new and used vehicles. Ugly Grouper, located on beautiful Anna Maria in Florida, is the place to be, and not just because they have unforgettable meals, including locally sourced seafood. The Ugly Grouper has your favorite craft beers and cocktails, along with live music every day. The Ugly Grouper is family-friendly, able to host private parties, and has the biggest grouper you've ever seen. The Ugly Grouper is the place to be on Anna Maria Island, Florida. Tell them Indiana Sports Beat sent you. Go to theuglygrouper.com for more information. When it comes to apparel and promotions, Freethink has you covered, literally, whether it's 24 or 200 shirts for sports leagues, businesses, or groups. Freethink Apparel and Promotions can also create your very own merchandising store. Freethink Apparel and Promotions did it for Indiana Sports Beat Radio, and they can do it for you. Whether it's screen printing, embroidery, digital printing, promotional products, vehicle wraps, or anything else under the promotional line. See what Freethink Apparel and Promotions can do for you at freethinkapparel.com. Located on 325 acres in beautiful Brown County, Indiana, Hard Truth Distilling Company is the biggest and the best craft distillery around. While Hard Truth is already known for producing internationally awarded whiskeys and spirits like Hard Truth's sour mash bourbons, sweet mash, and hard road ryes, as well as their cinnamon vodka and the always popular toasted coconut rum. Hard Truth Distillery offers so much more. With a full-service restaurant, ATV, and distillery tours, as well as live music, you can spend an entire day at Hard Truth Distillery while making your entire family or group happy. And that's the Hard Truth. Hard Truth products are available across Indiana, as well as many other states. So no matter where you shop, if they don't carry your favorite Hard Truth product, tell them you want the truth, the Hard Truth. Hard Truth Distilling Company encourages you to enjoy all of their products responsibly and to never drink and drive. Welcome back to the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios on this Monday, getting your week started off right. And we always like to do it. Dustin Dopirak is so gracious to help us along with that. A great run by the Pacers as they continue. And, man, all kinds of stuff coming up. It's going to be a busy time in Indianapolis, the area, Dustin, with high school basketball tournament on the way this weekend beginning. And then, of course, the Big Ten tournament around the corner, which the NCAA tournament follows that. And teams trying to make it in. Purdue solidly in. Indiana sneaking into the tournament here at the end of the year, which I've got to tell you, I long thought that there was no way this team would make the tournament, but they have kind of turned things around a little bit at the end of the year and gotten some big wins, a huge wins over Michigan State and Purdue to put themselves back on not only on the bubble, but as of right now, I think they might actually be in the tournament.
Yeah, at the moment it looks like that. I mean, I think they still need to, it'd be better for them if they pull at least one win between Oregon and Ohio State, just to solidify it. Basically, I mean, they certainly don't need to get beat badly in one of those games. But yeah, I mean, they played so much better. They look like a different team, basically, and so it's been pretty remarkable. I think it's a lot of the stuff. I think some people were asking for them for a long time is that don't play both bigs. Play a different style where you can actually kind of lean into the guards, lean into the shooting. And I think they've done a lot of some of the same things that the Pacers have done. Not exactly, but I mean, I think that they're bringing a lot of ball pressure. They're winning a lot of games because they're either turning people over or just harassing people on defense. And they look like, I mean, again, it matters sometimes. You get one of those teams where coach gets fired and you don't have that burden anymore. And they're playing without that. I mean, I think you just see that basically they just look unburdened. They don't look like something's hanging over them. As strange as it still has to be, like it's got to be weird over there. Especially the guys that are done after this really seem to be just saying, screw it, let's go. They're basically, this is the last shot we have. Let's get into the tournament. Let's play on. Let's just leave it all out there. It's. I mean, again, it's a scenario where it's not necessarily anything that you can build on going forward. You're tearing it up and breaking it down after that. And you don't know who of these guys you're going to be able to keep, who these guys, a new guy's going to even want to keep with the amount of things that you can get done in the portal. But, basically the guys that are in there and saying, this is our last ride, no matter what happens. They just seem to be, fired up. And it just seems like Woodson's played into that. I mean, you can, obviously criticize him for a whole lot. But it does seem like he said, okay, well, you know what, let's play the guys who want it the worst right now. And, Leal and Galloway and Goody want it real bad, you can tell. And it's just, it's been impressive to watch. And, it's leaning into some of the guys that aren't necessarily, the biggest names. I mean, the fact that they keep starting Leal down the stretch and it's helping, I think it's been some pretty wise stuff. So you got to give credit, I think, for, all right, once you're in this situation, once you are where you are, to say, all right, heck with it. Let's just, let's lean into this. Let's be one of the hardest playing, most obnoxious teams that you can play, and try to win that way. And they have.
Yeah. If you look at the box scores today, as opposed to say back in December, they are nothing like each other. You look at, there are three starters in Miles Rice, Malik Renew, and Kanan Carlisle that were starters that are now coming off of the bench. Although Miles Rice had 25 minutes, Malik Renew had 25 minutes in the last game. So there's not playing less per se, but it's splitting them up. Umar Ballo only played 15 minutes. But Malik Renew, 22 points off of the bench. Miles Rice, 10 points off of the bench. And you go along with Luke Goody, who is now been able to kind of prosper in his role. 18 points, 6 of 11 shooting, 5 of 9 behind the 3-point line. That is what Indiana didn't have for much of the first part of the season.
Yeah. I mean, it goes back to stuff that we've talked about for years of, even, in these off seasons when they've recruited really well. And I really did think, when they got Ballo, I remember saying this, he's going to have a hard time not playing two bigs, and I don't know, some of that is probably, there might be NIL promises involved in that, but I just think and Archie and Mike Woodson have both had this issue it's been harder, I think, on Woodson than it was on Archie, because at least he had Race Thompson, where Race was a guy that was more, versatile, basically. I mean, he's an old school 4. He's not necessarily a stretch 4, but he's an old school style power forward. Obviously, can really run the floor, can defend multiple positions, something like that. These guys are 5s, and it's been trying to figure out how are you going to play 5s. And I think that from my vantage point, from 10,000 feet, I'm not seeing what happens every day. I'm not going to AAU tournaments anymore or anything like that, or see who are they talking to, I'm not seeing it on a micro level anymore. I'm obviously seeing it from a distance. But to me, the this true flaw, I guess, in Woodson's tenure is always going to be like he never had a system that he recruited to, and he just went and got out the best 5 guys and tried to figure out how that works. And I understand that, and I know people are like, well, why wouldn't you just do that? But it's like the thing about it is that like when you have a system, everybody knows what to do, and you have a style, and you have baselines, and you have things that you like, basically like identity,
roles.
And it's just like
you have roles for guys.
Who you are. What's up?
Roles for players as well.
Yeah, you know who you are and what you do, and everything is connected, and that's the thing that just never really happened. It's basically like, he came in saying he wanted to play more modern NBA style basketball. And I mean, shoot, they're 5 out, like the NBA is 5 out. Like you're, like you have a big, but he's rolling, he's moving, like you don't.
It's like Danny Wolf.
Yeah, exactly. You don't play out of the post. Like you post guys up when you get a matchup. Basically, if you roll and they switch, you go punish the guy who switched onto you. Like basically, like if a point guard picks up the 5, you're like, okay, throw it to him in the post now. But they're not standing there at the beginning of the possession and just walling off the other 5 and being like, throw it into me, I'll throw it back out. Like that doesn't happen in the NBA. And so it's like, okay, like Woodson didn't. It's like, okay, so you're not bringing the way that you play in the league now. Like you are saying, all right, I can do. If I got a lot of size, then I'll be able to outdo people. But like you didn't have a system for it. Like you didn't play, like you have to change the pace that you play. You have to have, you have to make the most out of your shooters. Like if you are going to, like, you've got to space the floor for those guys to operate, and you better have, you can't have decent shooters. You got to have really, really good ones, in those other 3 spots. And so it just never all came together. And I think he was probably hoping that Renew would be a little bit better perimeter guy, because I think he started further along, I think, in that regard than Trace Jackson Davis did. But I don't know how much you could say he really kind of added that to his game, but he's still a good player. I mean, like, he was fantastic the other night. So I mean, I'm sure it's been tough to say, all right, well, these are my two of my best 5 guys, but I'm going to play one of them 25 and one of them 15. Like it's hard to do that. It's hard to commit to that. But if you want to have an identity, you kind of have to. And so, again, not easy in the world of NIL. Like I'm sure that, like you have an agent you have to talk to that says, like you do in the league, to be like, all right, like this is going to happen now, make your case. You can argue with whatever you want, but like, coach.
And Dustin froze up on us. Let's see if he gets there. There we go.
Am I back?
You're back.
Am I back? Okay.
Oh, yeah. Okay. And so the next thing for Indiana is they're in the middle of a coaching search, which that's kind of difficult to do while the season is going on, but the season is going on. On one hand, you can say, well, it gives Scott Dolson a little more time, because when they made the football hire, it was days between the announcement of the firing and the hiring of a new coach. And that is not going to be the case here. It's going to be weeks and weeks in between. And then you're going to have the situation that there are other guys that are already out of the picture. So now it's just going to be, who are they going to get? Who can they get? Who wants this job? And there are more people that want it than I think people want to realize, but it's also about timing. It's about so many different things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I mean, and I think the one helpful thing about doing it during the year is you can let people audition. You can let coaches audition. You can, you can stand back and watch. And I'm sure, I guarantee, obviously Dolson's probably put out calls by now. He's been in touch with people, but you can also kind of sit back and let somebody go win it, like let somebody go blow you away because you have an NCAA tournament coming up. You get to see, you get to see a shining star. You might get to go see somebody do something that you didn't expect them to do and be like, actually, that's what I want, and that's what the tournament's for. That's what makes this thing special in the first place. That's what makes college basketball fun. Like you can, and like obviously you don't want somebody that just, caught lightning in a bottle and there's nothing substantive behind it. They just, one guy on their team just happened to make a whole bunch of shots and they got lucky. But like you might see something in this stretch that tells you, that's actually how I want to see a program run. Like that actually really works, and you don't know where it's going to come from. And so I think there's some benefit to that. I mean, obviously this was a tough situation to start with across the board. As far, I think from 10,000 feet, it's been stage managed better than a lot of people think. You could say, okay, did he really retire? Or did he really, was he kind of very strongly suggested, you're not going to have a job next year anyway, so you might as well walk on your own. Who knows? But like, I think getting it done when they got it done, not having, if they hadn't done it already, like, or if he hadn't, or whatever, like you'd be in a place where you might have to keep him, if he makes the tournament, like, in theory, basically, if this would have still happened, or, you don't know if it would have turned around otherwise. So, like it's a lot easier. And I think, that you can have these two tracks that I think even, it might feel a little bit disingenuous, but when they did say like, hey, get behind this team, like you don't have to worry about whether he's going to be the guy anymore. Like if you don't like him, if you don't want him to be the coach going forward, like, you don't have to worry about that. You don't have to sit there and hope they lose so that they make a change. They've already made a change. Get behind this team, give some of these guys, your Galloways, your Leals, your, Luke Goodies, but still, they're one last ride. Give Mike Woodson, who's done a lot as an alum, one last ride, and then think of something new on the side. Like you're going to be able to kind of process it better. But I think for Dulcin, it's just, you do have the opportunity of saying, hey, I'm going to watch this team, enjoy what it can do, and then say, all right, I'm looking at the rest of the tournament and saying, okay, somebody impress me. Like I do. Obviously, there's tough sell points of this job. It's a pressure cooker, it's a fishbowl. And the standards are high, but like I think, I don't think anybody who's been an Indiana fan might say, okay, like maybe our standards are high, but no one's come close to meeting them. So like, you don't know what they would do if it were like closer, like whether they would have run people out, basically if somebody actually was kind of closer to the mark. It's not that nobody's been close. Obviously we could spend hours on, Tom Crean's tenure and whatnot. But Archie Miller, wasn't particularly close. Mike Woodson's gotten to tournaments, but I think you can see that the process isn't quite what you want it to be there. It's not even not quite, it's very much not, what you want it to be there. So, like they're smart people. They're people who care about basketball. Sometimes they can go over the top, but as much as it can be a lot, like it's still a job where you can win. It's still a job where you're going to get a bunch of NIL money. It's still a job where you can get into a lot of living rooms when you're recruiting high school kids. So, there's value there. There's definitely some people that are comfortable that aren't going to go, that you're not going to be able to get because they're comfortable. And it is tough to pass up a comfortable situation. If you already feel like you have a really good job, like you might not want to, roll the dice and say, okay, am I going to make this or am I not? Like I can be, TJ Otzelberger can be at Iowa State for another decade if he wants to be, or 20 years if he wants to be. He's got connections there. Does he really want to roll the dice on a place where he could be out in 4? Like those are tough calls for a bunch of guys at that level to say, all right, again, obviously Dusty made for Michigan, a similar situation. Say, all right, like I've got a lot of backing. It's a big program. I've done well so far. Do I need to, I've already got some equity here. Do I need to chance that? Brad Stevens obviously is in a totally different situation. But, basically already, he's got a ring and he's in Red Auerbach's seat, so some of those are, it's not easy to pry somebody loose from a comfortable situation where you're doing well and succeeding. But, it's going to be good for somebody. And just they have to be able to build around it, and they have to have an answer. I think again, like if I'm Scott Dulcin, the number one thing I'm looking for, and obviously it matters to him what it is, but you want a system. You want a basketball system, you want a recruiting system, you want an NIL system. It's like I think if I'm Scott Dolson, what I'm looking for is like, tell me you've connected all the dots. Like tell me you can connect all the dots. Tell me you see it's like basically like you it's like running a company. Like you've got to see it at every level. And I think that's if you're Dolson, that's what you're looking for. And I don't think it's out of the question they can find that.
No, it's someone that is accustomed to doing it, because when this job was open the last time, all of this was new. NIL was new. Transfer portal was new. It's not new now. And I think that makes this job a lot more inviting because of the resources that they have, because of the in-state recruiting, because of the tradition, because of all the things. So we'll see. It's also, I said earlier, it's about timing. Dusty May, it didn't work out from a timing standpoint. Chris Beard, rather, it's not probably going to work out from a timing standpoint in a different way for him. So it just, you have to see things work out the way they're going to work out, and it'll be interesting to see how this one goes.
Yep, no, absolutely. You'll see, it could shake out a bunch of different ways, but like you said, they've got time. They don't have to rush it. They don't. If you make a decision by the Final Four, I think you're in good shape.
Absolutely. What is up next for you, brother?
They play tomorrow night against Houston. I think that's going to be a really interesting game. Rockets, obviously a team that's grown up a lot this year. As I think really Detroit and Houston are the two teams that you've seen really blossom as you've kind of, teams that have stacked high draft picks that have really grown up, really this year. And they've, both kind of come into having a system. Ime Udoka is doing a heck of a job with Houston. They're just defensively, they make you miserable. And I think so that's going to be a really interesting game for the Pacers to see how they handle that. Going on the road after that. So I'm going to Atlanta and Chicago. They'll play Atlanta on Thursday, Friday. They play Chicago on Monday, not Thursday, Friday, Thursday, Saturday, Chicago on Monday. So a little bit of a road trip there. They come back from Milwaukee. They go back on the road after that. So it's been a pretty lengthy homestand here. So we're moving around over here over the next couple of weeks.
Hot Atlanta, baby. Well, safe travels, my friend. We appreciate you.
Absolutely. Thanks, Jim.
Dustin Dopirak from the Indy Star. Make sure you're giving him a follow and keeping up with all his coverage of the Indy Pacers. More coming up here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio from the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios right after these messages. Located on 325 acres in beautiful Brown County, Indiana, Hard Truth Distilling Company is the biggest and the best craft distillery around. While Hard Truth is already known for producing internationally awarded whiskeys and spirits like Hard Truth's sour mash bourbons, sweet mash, and hard road ryes, as well as their cinnamon vodka and the always popular toasted coconut rum, Hard Truth Distillery offers so much more. With a full-service restaurant, ATV, and distillery tours, as well as live music, you can spend an entire day at Hard Truth Distillery while making your entire family or group happy. And that's the Hard Truth. Hard Truth products are available across Indiana, as well as many other states. So no matter where you shop, if they don't carry your favorite Hard Truth product, tell them you want the truth, the Hard Truth. Hard Truth Distilling Company encourages you to enjoy all of their products responsibly and to never drink and drive. If you're looking for a new home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from Brick and Ivy Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl at CherylSizemoreSells@gmail.com or 317-701-0838. That's 317-701-0838. Let Cheryl Sizemore sell or find your new home today. Whether it's a night out with the family, after work with colleagues, or catching the game with friends, Bubba's 33 is the place for you. Bubba's 33 offers a mouthwatering menu of selections that are all made from scratch every day. The portions are big, but the prices are small. And with over 50 big screen TVs, you'll never miss the big game. Bubba's 33, pizza, burgers, beer. Andy Moore Honda is Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer for a reason. Buy a new Honda and get a 3-month break from car payments. That's right, no payments for 90 days. That includes the all-new, all-electric Honda Prologue, and you get it for just 0.9% financing. Or the 2024 Honda Ridgeline Black Edition or the Honda Accord LX, both for just 1.9% financing. Get more to your door from AndyMooreHonda.com, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer and your best place for new and used vehicles. Welcome back to the Hard Truth Distilling Company Studios on this Monday. Thank you so much for being with us. We appreciate you, no matter where or how you're listening. Appreciate all your comments as well. Tonight on the docket, let's see, UCLA back east, where Mick Cronin loves to be. Their take on Northwestern tonight at 9 o'clock Eastern time in a game that is on FS1. Tomorrow, Rutgers at Purdue. That's at 7 o'clock on the Peacock. And then also Indiana, Oregon tomorrow night. That's on FS1. That's a 9 o'clock game. And in addition, Nebraska and Ohio State at 9 o'clock also on the Peacock that you can watch that one. Maryland at Michigan on Wednesday, as well as Wisconsin at Minnesota. Wisconsin, that was that loss. Not a huge shock, but I'm more surprised that Michigan State was able to handle Wisconsin the way they did. I didn't think that Michigan State was quite as good as they're looking right now, but they're looking pretty damn good. They have really come around, and they've taken charge of the Big Ten, and it looked like they're going to win the Big Ten's title, to be honest with you. Michigan is not playing well. Michigan got blown out at home by Illinois yesterday, and in their game before that, they were beaten at home by Michigan State. I think both of those have come since Dusty May signed that nice big new extension, so that's kind of funny. I mean, not funny, but Dusty's a great guy. Not harping on Dusty. Just ironic that has happened that way. Andrew says, I just lost it, but he was talking about Brownell as a potential coach. Yeah, there's a lot of potentials out there, man. Where they get there, where they wind up, not sure where that's going to be. Trying to predict that is a little crazy because you just don't know which direction it's going to go. There are a lot of viable candidates, and it doesn't matter if you're talking about Ben McCollum at Drake or Grant McCaslin at Texas Tech. There are just plenty of Brownell at Clemson, the former high school teammate of Calbert Cheney down at Evansville. Harrison, Clemson coach, done a good job. There's plenty of guys that are coaching well. And I think that Scott Dolson is going to vet everything and make a good decision, especially with the amount of time that he has. I just think that he knows the importance of not only about this hire for Indiana, for the basketball program, for himself, for his legacy. And that's not what he's thinking of. I will grant you that. He's not thinking about his legacy, but it is there. Russell pointing out Brad Brownell's career coaching percentage is 62%. Not bad, 456 and 279, especially when you are at a place like Clemson. So it is not bad. I think that there are a lot of good opportunities for whomever this next coach is going to be. It's not some of the ones that Indiana fans would like to have seen. You're not going to get Dusty May. You're not going to get Brad Stevens. You're probably not going to get Chris Beard for different reasons. But it is what it is. And it's unfortunate that Indiana can't. The timing just does not work out for them. Like it has for, say, Duke, who was able to go from Mike Krzyzewski right to John Shire. Or look back at Xavier, back when they were hiring coach after coach after coach, and they just kept hitting home run after home run after home run. Man, they hired like 5 straight coaches that were all successful and all would move on to other places. So Andy thinks that McCaslin would do well at IU. Not leaving Texas, though, it sounds like. Well, yeah, I don't know about that because offers are offers, but I don't know who's going to leave where. I'm not sure Scott Drew is really viable candidate anymore. TJ Otzelberger is definitely one that is a name that is up there. Yeah, Jeremy says multiple friends that are assistants in the Big Ten. Well, you got a lot of friends that are assistants. That's something. He is definitely probably at or near the top because of the success he's had. We'll see. Would not surprise me at all. That would be a good selection. He's been successful without the resources that Indiana offers. Not that he's had zero resources, but we'll certainly find out. It's been a great, fun day as always as well. I cannot thank each and every one of you enough. We hope you're back tomorrow as we'll do it all again. Looking forward to it. Nathan Baird will be with us as well as Mike DeCourcy. Plenty more to talk to. We'll be back and do it all again from the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios. Until then, I am Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio.
Thanks for listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page for more clips and team coverage of Indiana basketball, football, and more. You can also find full episodes and tons of other content on thehoosier.com. We'll see you next time for another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio.